Hello, my name is Anjana. I am working as a lead blockchain developer in Electrify Private Limited in Singapore. So thanks, Shamilan, for give the opportunity to speak about Ethereum Plasma. Uh, so previous speakers uh, asked to hands up who are the developers here, the Ethereum developers. Who's doing the Ethereum development as a smart contract development in the crowd? Nobody? Okay. No worries. Um, okay. We are moving to the introduction to Ethereum Plasma. So I have an impression that you guys know about Ethereum at least. So otherwise, this would be a little bit difficult to understand, but I will try to make simple as much as possible to make this not a boring session for you guys. So Ethereum. So Ethereum is the world leading and most decentralized blockchain platform available now. To be precise, yes. We have around 1,000 plus blockchain solutions available in the world now. As the previous speaker said, the quorum is built upon the Ethereum. We have Hyperledger Fabric, Ethereum, Ripple, IOTA, so and so and so and so. So we have tons of blockchain technologies, but I'm sticking into the Ethereum because that's the most decentralized and most transparent blockchain solution at the moment. So, what are the pros of, okay, another thing is I'm speaking about the public blockchains. I have this itch for the private blockchains. So for the pros of public blockchain is like the functionality, adaptability, security, diversity, reliability, etc., etc. You name of any issues you have in the current database-driven platforms solutions, they have an answer in a public blockchain solution. So I use this word public because some of the stuff which is not available in public blockchain, it's available in the private blockchain like quorum. So no issues in that. So we speak about the pros, but what is the biggest problem? The biggest problem is, for the normal person we are saying, blockchain is a very slow database. Even though I use this meme to put into the presentation, I don't like the word the database, because database, most of the stuff which database has doesn't have in the blockchain. For example, the atomic concepts we don't have in the blockchain. Okay. So what are the cons of Ethereum? So we talk about the pros. What are the stuff we have, the plus points. The negative point is the transaction speed is between 7 to 15 transactions per second. So this also depends on how much gas you are willing to spend. So do you guys know what is gas is? Right. Okay. So gas is the amount that you have to pay for the Ethereum to insert a record into the Ethereum blockchain. So depending on the gas price, this number is going to change. So if you put the minimum amount, it will take around 14 minutes to do one transaction. The minimum gas price, it will take around 14 minutes, 14 plus. So if you put around gas price around like 15, 16, which it will cost around $2, $2. It will can happen within like 2 to 3 minutes. So if you put like 40 gas, it will happen within couple of seconds. So this is the one issue we are having in the Ethereum blockchain. Ethereum private blockchain, public blockchain. So transaction speed is freaking low. This is because of the gas price plus the consensus methods they are using. They are using the proof of work. So hopefully in the hard fork we can go to the POS, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. So we are when we speak about the transaction speed, we are always comparing to Visa. The reason we are comparing the transaction speed for Visa is blockchains primarily developed to do the financial transaction. So world best financial transaction method is through Visa, and Visa is having like 25,000 to 45,000 records can insert per second. So this is the reason we are always comparing it for the Visa, the transaction speed, we are always comparing it to Visa because of this reason. Okay, so the second problem is Ethereum is a legacy blockchain system. Don't forget Ethereum came on 2015, but it's only 3 years. Again, it's still legacy. The Vitalik himself said in a very close group of the chit-chat we're having in our office place. So he just developed this for very small group. He didn't thought that people will adopt this technology to move forward. But unfortunately, what happened is his technology adapt from the most of the people, not the blockchain portion, but the Ethereum portion. And he couldn't do any changes into the blockchain system now because of the vast adaptability. So because of this issue, other companies like Silica is based on Singapore. It's one of the most promising public blockchain platform. They are going around the third test network now. So that's the most promising public blockchain now, as I know, which is having a better transaction speed. So in their test network, they achieved around 1,500 transactions per second in their test network. The other problem in the Ethereum is the slow updates. So the POS, they spoke about the POS in 2017. So this is 2019, but still not came. And hopefully, I'm actually cross my fingers, it will come on January 19th, as this lady said. So these are the issues which is having in the Ethereum, the current Ethereum version. So the proposed solution is Ethereum 2.0. So Ethereum 2.0, before I speak about Ethereum 2.0, I have to show you the Ethereum timeline. So Ethereum went live on this date, 2015 July. So in the 2015 May, they released a testnet called Olympic. So their first version called Frontier. So that's where the Genesis block created. You guys know what is Genesis block is, right? That's the first block created in the blockchain. So in 2015 September, they increased the block difficulty. So to get the rewards for the miners, we have something called nonce. So they increased this block difficulty in 2015 September. Most of these stuff are soft forks most of the time because it's not doing any large or big differences to the platform. So most of the stuff are soft forks. So in 2016 March, they released the home state. Home state is the version now we are using. Till the date, this is the version we are using. For the home state, they put, in 2017 October, they put the Byzantine fault tolerance. Before that, they have some other consensus method. Still work on the POW, but it's not Byzantine fault tolerance certified. Yeah. So Byzantine fault tolerance is one of the mathematical algorithms. So you guys can Google it later. So 2019, January 19, which will happen is this one, the Constantinople, the Casper hybrid. So there is another reason we call this as Casper hybrid. So my session is about the plasma, but I have to explain this stuff because these stuff are a little bit needed later for you to understand, right? So the POS, the proof of stake mechanism, there are two people who work on that one. So one is the Vitalik himself, the other one is the Ethereum co-founder, not Joseph Lubin, the other guy. So they have two different paths, and Vitalik didn't want to use his method, but he wants to use his own method. But there are some pro things in the other guy's method in the POS, so he just want to combine it. So that's the reason they called it as Casper hybrid. So they are all these words, sometimes they have a hidden meaning behind it. Okay? So the Ethereum version 2 called Serenity. So January 19, they are not using for Serenity, they are using for Metropolis Phase 2. Because they want to try out their proof of stake system, which is quite hybrid. Means like it's not fully POS, it's actually POW plus POS. Okay? So Vitalik vision for Ethereum 2 is privacy, safety, and scalability. So safety, he want to focus on two other things as consensus safety, like the proof of work, proof of stake, proof of authority, what we are speaking of now, the pluggable BFT, and everything. So he just want to focus on that one, plus the contract safety. So for Ethereum contracts, only two companies now working on as a frameworks, but Vitalik is fully supporting for those two companies, but he want to take it for his own hands. So Ethereum version 2, in the safety, in the sense, he want to focus on these two stuff as well. The third one is the scalability. So what's the hold up? Why the scalability is so much difficult? So when we speak about scalability, we are speaking about this something called scalability trilemma. Scalability trilemma is decentralization, scalability, and security. So the problem is, to achieve the scalability, you can do it with any two of these one. So if you want to have a better transaction speed, you can increase security and scalability, but not decentralization. Or decentralization and security, but not scalability. Or scalability and decentralization, but not security. This is like if you are newly married, like ammat tone, wife tone wage kathawa, right? So to give a idea about how difficult is this. So, okay, this is the Vitalik words from his own words. It's very easy to have two of these properties, but very hard to have all three. And to give a better picture about why this is so much difficult, so they call it a blockchain that claimed to have solved this trilemma has either bent of laws of physics or it has discovered a breakthrough method that has stumped top mathematicians and computer scientists for the past decade. So to achieve this scalability problem with the scalability trilemma, so Vitalik is saying, either people should have to bend the laws of physics, which is a bit impossible for the current knowledge of humans, or the breakthrough method has stumped top mathematicians and computer scientists for the past decade. So whatever the mathematicians come up with any algorithm, they have to break it to achieve these three things if you want to do a better scalability. So you guys can have an idea how difficult it is to get this scalability issue in the Ethereum. So what is plasma? So plasma is something like this. So if you want to work, so plasma is like, if you put hand, it will stop and the electrode will come to our finger. So this is actually the plasma. So anyway, so it's just a icebreaker. So anyway, what is Ethereum plasma? So Ethereum plasma is a layer 2 scalability solution that could potentially enable higher transaction speed in Ethereum blockchain network. So here I put something called layer 2, right? So Vitalik is saying that it's potentially millions, but it's just it's not something possible at the moment. So I have mentioned something like layer 2 here. So layer 2 is when we want to update the Ethereum blockchain, the Vitalik and the team, most of the time the Ethereum Foundation, when they want to update the Ethereum blockchain, there are two ways to do it. The one is integrated the changes into the blockchain itself, which we call layer 1. The other thing is the layer 2. So it's built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. Okay? So this is like, sorry, I'm coming from a PHP background. So PHP, you have the language itself, and you can use a framework like CodeIgniter, Laravel or something, right? Likewise, so if you want to do changes for blockchain itself, it's like we are doing a language change. But we can do something on top of it. So Plasma is a layer 2 solution. It's not a layer 1 solution. And Plasma is not a project. The first thing, it's not a project. And it's one of the Ethereum layer 2 solutions. And it's a off-chain scaling technique and a framework for building scalable application and can be implemented in the distinct ways by different research groups. So I will explain this one for somewhat further. So Plasma is a name they want to do the scalability issue. Find a solution for scalability. So it's like project something, right? So they want to do this off-chain. Means this will not affect the main chain or the root chain, but it will have a side chain like a child chain. I will have a graph, I'll show it for you guys later. So the Plasma is developed to give a better transaction speed, now which we having in 7 to 15 transactions per second, but their target is millions, but we are thinking of something somewhere around 40,000. If any of the Plasma solution can achieve 40,000 transactions per second, that means we are on tally with the Visa network. Means that we can do the financial transaction without any delay, right? So I'm going a little bit back. So in other words, Ethereum Plasma is a series of smart contracts which runs on top of an existing blockchain that focuses on batch transaction enforcement and settlement to do better scale load on parent chain. So Ethereum Plasma, in this definition, they are saying it's a series of smart contracts. So what is this means? This means like they have, Ethereum itself has some set of smart contracts. When we write in our own smart contract, we can link these two together. So what we are doing is we are just passing the data, and this set of smart contract will do the rest to communicate with the root chain, right? So this is the first explanation. Second explanation is Ethereum Plasma is a scalability solution that allows decentralized application to move transaction off of a root blockchain. These transactions are migrated onto other blockchains called child chains, side chains, plasma chains that are operated by individual or small validator sets. So in this explanation, you guys can see there's something called a root blockchain. So this root blockchain don't want to be the Ethereum itself. They called it Plasma because if any other blockchain guys wants to apply this Plasma methodologies, they can use it. So that's why they call it as a root blockchain, which will be the very parent on top of the blockchain, right? Then the other blockchain called child chain, side chain, plasma chains. So the child chains, plasma chains, and side chains, these wordings are different to each other. So plasma chains is actual plasma chains which will support the plasma, right? The side chains doesn't want to support plasma, but they can use the other smart contracts to communicate with plasma chain. The child chains is actually more generic term, okay? And the other important thing is that are operated by individuals or small validator sets. That means anybody can create a plasma solution, a side chain. Let's say we want to use Quorum as a side chain. We can do that. We want to use Hyperledger as a side chain. We can do that. Or we want to use IOTA as a side chain. We can do that. So it could be individual. Let's say Cisco wants to build their own blockchain solution called Cisco blockchain, for example, right? So they can create their own blockchain platform, whatever the consensus mechanism is, and link it to the Ethereum Plasma. Doesn't matter, right? That's why it says these are operated by individuals or small validators. Okay? So Plasma is a chain within a blockchain. Okay? Any quick questions, guys, up to now? Because just now I'm going to start to do the introduction to Ethereum Plasma. All other stuff I seen to give you an idea what is Ethereum Plasma is. But we are going forward. Any quick questions? No? All right. So this Ethereum Plasma is proposed by Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin together with Joseph Foon in August 2017 as a scaling solution technique for Ethereum blockchain. So people who don't know about Joseph Foon, he's the brain behind the Lightning Network, Plasma, and the writer of OMG white paper. So Bitcoin transaction is the slowest transaction which is available now, like 2 to 5 per second. So to mitigate this issue, this Joseph Foon guy introduced something called Lightning Network. So it's kind of a child chain again, which communicate with the Bitcoin and do the transaction quite fast. So they want to do the same thing for Ethereum, but their methodology was a little bit different. So this Joseph Foon guy is around 30s, I think. It's a bloody brilliant mind. So this is how Plasma works. This is how the Plasma works. So we have the root chain. I call it as a main chain as well. So we can think this root chain as Ethereum for the meantime. Okay. Then we have the child chains. You forget about this word for a minute. I'll explain this one later. So for this block, to communicate with this block, there could be another blockchain platform available here. right? Then theoretically it can have infinity number of child chains to communicate with the main chain. So I'll give an example for you. If you let's think about the passport office, right? If you want to get all the information, all the passport information, you just have to go there, right? But if they have a system we can access, we put our own passport number, and they are giving the details for us. So it's actually add-on for the main database, right? So that's how this child chain works. Okay. So if you think about our screwed government, right? So the government will work as the root blockchain. All other departments will work as child blockchains, right? So this child chain can become a parent chain as well. The meaning of this is, we'll get the same example as the government. So government has departments. Let's say if we go to telecommunication and something department, under that department they have several branches. So these small branches, the telecommunication department is acting as a parent. So all others are child. So this simple mechanism is work in plasma as well. So the easiest example could be the grandfather, father, and son. So I just put extra step and explain it from the government because you guys can easily understand. So this is a cleaned diagram. So the reason I showed the previous one is that I want to show that this child chain can become a parent chain at any time based on what you want to do, right? So this parent chains can be an individual or can be a validator, the small group, a company as a validator also, right? So in this one, we have the root chain, which will act as mother, called Ethereum. So they have parent chains, which each individual companies or individual person can have a solution that to access the main blockchain network, right? Under that, we can have these child chains, whatever the number of child chains you want to have. So again, I want to explain this as from example. So let's say the government wants to make all IT companies in one branch, right? So probably the one we have to, let's say, deal with is the telecommunication department, for example, let's say, right? So telecommunication department will act as a parent chain, and every IT company in Sri Lanka could be a child chain of their own. So what will happen is, if you want to store some information in the main chain or the root chain, this child chain will send information to parent chain, and parent chain will push those information to Ethereum. The funny part is this, right? I told that this child chain could be anything. It could be Hyperledger Fabric, it could be Quorum, it could be IOTA, anything. What matters is it want to support this framework, right? So to store information, maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't have to pay anything at all. For example, like in the private blockchain, we are not paying any cent because that's our own, and we are paying for the infrastructure, we are paying for the server and everything. So, but we are not paying anything for the transactions, right? But if you want to store this information in the main chain, you have to pay. Either through POW, which will fail. The best solution could be the POS, the proof of stake, right? So this is another chart you can see. So the root chain work as here, and there is a plasma contract, which can be a private blockchain. And there is another plasma contract for micropayments. And there's another plasma contract for decentralized exchange. And there is another plasma chain for social network, like that. So you can think about infinite number of opportunities through plasma. But the thing is, don't forget that if you want to store the data in the main chain, you have to pay. So that's the thing. So when we are small, if you want to go a trip, you want to get permission from dad, right? Something like that. So if you want to store the data in the main chain, you have to pay. If you don't want to store in the main chain, you don't have to pay, or you'll pay a very small fee. It depends. Okay? So this is just text. So I explain how the plasma works, but I will read through this if you have any questions in the later stage. So how plasma works? So allows DFs to creation of child blockchain which are connected to the parent blockchain through a smart contract. Okay, so this says the allow DFs. So the thing is, even though it says a DApp, the child chain will not create when we run the application. It's not. It's there already, just we have to connect to it. Right? For example, like if you are using a database in AWS, you just have to connect to RDS or something, right? So this similar explanation here in the different words. So DFs can then execute entirely on respective child chains, and this dramatically lowering the strain placed on the parent chain and enabling the DF to more efficient and cost effective. And the child chain could have their own consensus mechanism, could be proof of authority, could be POS, anything. But they are not fully independent of their parent. So this is the thing. So even though we can store data into the plasma chains or side chain or child chain, it's not very independent still, because plasma chains will come with the series of smart contracts which have to communicate with the root chain. Because of this reason, it will not be fully independent. The child chain relies on the parent for security. So we'll come to this point later. And the child chain broadcasts updates across the parent chain using transaction header. So you know how the blockchain works, right? So there's a header having the hex and store into the next block, like that. So it happened in the same way here also, and only thing is like it will broadcast. Means like it's like FM radio. So it's not writing into the blockchain, but it's broadcasting if you are paying, right? Then the second one is like headers of each block committed to the root chain. If an invalid header is published, someone can submit a fraud proof. So if found guilty, the blockchain will roll back and the fraud get penalized. Okay. So when we talk about the plasma, the first security problem we had is what will happen if everyone exits from the child chain? So that's one of the security questions they had in the early stage of plasma, but they have found solutions for that as well. I want to mention it because of that, because of the word here. Someone can submit a fraud proof. Okay, I'll try to explain it in an example, right? So let's say a bank. So bank is operating through a root chain. Let's say the root chain could be the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, right? So let's say the bank name, okay, People's Bank, right? So we are doing some transaction in the People's Bank. Let's say we put 100,000 to the bank and we withdraw it from another branch, right? So in theory, the amount which available in the bank is 0. But there are two transactions. One transaction is this person put 100,000, but he withdraw it after 5 minutes or 10 minutes from another branch. So there are two transactions happen. One is money saved, the other one is money stored. Let's say what will happen if if the central bank is not updated with that second transaction. Let's say we put 100,000 rupees in the People's Bank and the People's Bank updated the root chain, right? So in the root chain, it has like this A person has 100,000 rupees in his saving account. But after 5 minutes, this guy actually withdrawed it. The actual amount is 0. But in the main chain, it says like he has 100,000 in his bank account, in the central bank, right? So because of this reason, the plasma exit, we call it plasma exit. The plasma exit is not happening at the same time. So let's say if you request for exit from the child chain, and if you want to move your coins or your money back to the root chain, it will take around 7 days to 21 days. That's the target they are having now. They are having initial, they want to keep it for 1 month. But now they reduce it, come to 21 days, from 7 to 21 days, right? So let's say now this A person actually withdrew, and there is a B person who knows that he actually withdrew the money. He doesn't have money in his bank account. So he can submit a fraud proof through plasma chain, right? He can submit saying, okay, this guy actually doesn't have any money in his account. You guys check. So to check this, it will take around 7 days to 21 days, whatever the days they will set in late of the year. So now they are keeping actually for around 21 days in the testnet, right? Then the other thing is, I spoke about the headers of each block committed to the root chain. So blockchain header, which will have a hex value converted and stored in the one block to another. So this is how they see that the blockchain is not broken, right? In the plasma, okay, so these block headers, they save it a system called Merkle tree. If you know about the theory side of the Ethereum, you guys know about this. What is the Merkle tree? So Merkle tree is something like a tree chart. It's stored every hash in each block, right? So this Merkle tree is very lightweight. It will only store the hashes only. Because of that reason, it's very small, right? So in the plasma, you cannot do this. You cannot do this in the existing method, because if you have like 10 child chains under one parent chain, right? So these words, guys, don't mix up. I use the parent chain with the child chains. So parent chain could be another. Parent chain is actually a child chain from the root chain. Okay. So if the parent, what I said was, okay, if a parent chain has 10 child chains with millions of transactions, it's very difficult to store this information in the Merkle tree. So they found a solution that, okay, we are still going to save the hash, but in a very different way, right? So what they want to do is, they call it like the Merkle roots. The name they have given is the Merkle roots. What will happen is, it will only store hash still, but they are hashing these two hashes again and store in the parent chain. So I'll explain this in this chart, right? So in this one, the hash is 0, 0. And this chain, the hash is 0, 1, right? So they store this information in their parent chain in another hash called hash 0, 0 and hash 0, 1, right? You guys can see this one, right? The small letters, okay. Right. So there is another chain, another child, or another parent, coming as his chain is like 1, 0 and 1, 1. Right? So they put these two hashes to one big hash, and when they want to store this hash into the root chain, what will happen is, they will hash this one and store here. Can understand? Right? It's very, the graph is very simple, but in practical it's very difficult. Right? So this is how the hashing works in the plasma using the Merkle roots. Right. So the plasma implementation, I told that plasma is not something, a project, but it's a concept. So anybody can work on it. So if we want to work on it, we can work on it. If other companies want to work on it, they can work on it. So it doesn't matter that Vitalik himself or Ethereum Foundation itself want to work on the plasma. It's not work like that. So because of this reason, there are several plasma versions available now. So the two most important and the famous plasma versions is Plasma MVP and Plasma MoVP. Plasma MVP is a minimum viable plasma, which is like, it will have only like minimum viable product. You guys know what minimum MVP product is, right? So it will have only the stuff you need to create or you want to run in the business. That's what we call the MVP. So in the plasma, we have something called minimum viable plasma. It will have this parent chain, child chain. They will hash the data, and this is the only thing what they are doing in the minimum viable plasma. So minimum viable plasma is a UTXO based chain that possesses the basic principles of a security and enable higher transaction throughput for Ethereum. Okay, what the hell is this UTXO? So UTXO is like unused transaction output. So U is like U unused TX transaction, O is output. So let's say, to give the explanation for that word, let's say you have 10 Ether in your blockchain, right? So you have used around 5 Ethers to do any transactions, for example, right? So you have this, the balance is 5 Ethers again, which is available in the the root chain. So they will use these 5 Ethers as an input to do the transaction in minimum viable plasma, right? I understand that this is a very theoretical. Why this is very theoretical? Because this is still developing. So they came up with this MVP. They came with MVP around August or September. So I had the chance to work on MVP. It's pretty sucks, to be honest, right? So then they release a version called MoVP, More Viable Plasma. So in the More Viable Plasma, what they did was they increased the user experience of the Ethereum blockchain, how the plasma works, right? So the only thing they did was like, there are a number of steps, like the previous presentation, the person showed how to connect to a node, right? So for different nodes. So there are several steps if you want to store the data in the plasma chain. So what they did was, in the MoVP, you don't want to go through each of every steps. You just have to go through only a couple of steps, and still you can store the data. So this one, the MoVP, again, I got a chance to work through Omisego blockchain. For Omisego, Omisego is, okay, I'll explain about the Omisego later. So I got a chance to work on MoVP from the Omisego. So it's pretty much impressive. Impressive in the sense like you can do it like 600 transactions per second. Like, so from 7 to 15 and to 600 is a big leap. But the problem is we could only store 35 bits, means 35 characters. We couldn't store data more than that, because the reason we cannot store more than that, because they are testing their network. So we are getting early access for whatever the stuff releasing from the Ethereum. I'll explain it later why we are getting this early access, because for which reason. So, so MVP and MoVP is two promising Ethereum plasma solutions I have worked, and it's very promising. The MoVP is very, very promising, right? So there's another one called Plasma Cash. Plasma Cash, it's a non-fungible token as a representation of fixed number of fungible ones. Shamilan said that we are not speaking about the crypto side. So we are fully focused on the blockchain side. So whatever the crypto you have now is fungible tokens. It has a value, right? If you have ones. But we have a coin called non-fungible tokens, which doesn't have a value, but it will use as a collectible. Like, if you heard about the CryptoKitties is a game based on Ethereum. So what you can do in the CryptoKitties, if you love cats, you can have your own cat, give a name, choose the DNA, whatever the DNA you want, and keep this cat as long as you can pay for the game, right? So this cat is actually a non-fungible token in a technical perspective. What we are adding is we are adding the characteristics or the values to it. But you cannot sell this. You cannot sell this cat in the open market, right? So the other one is a Plasma Debit. It's very similar to Plasma Cash, but it will allow Plasma Pay, partial payments. You guys can have, you guys can Google this one to get the more information. Okay, we are coming to the end of the presentation actually. So Plasma, pros and cons. So first thing I already explained, the user can exit the child chain at any time, but not the instant, because of the same reason I have explained, right? This is a plus point plus a minus point as well. That means you don't want to stay in the child chain. You can go to, at any time you can exit from the child chain and you can stick with the root chain. So it's a plus and it's a minus as well in the other hand. So what will happen if they exit at the same time, right? So that's one thing. So low or zero transaction fee, better transaction speed, and the plasma chains could be centralized. So if the private chain, it's a private blockchain, we call it like not so really decentralized, it's partially centralized. So plasma chains could be centralized as well, which will actually more than what we are believing. So we are believing in the decentralized world, but if Plasma wants to go, it will be a little bit centralized. So that's why Vitalik says that there are three things. If you want to achieve these three things, it's very difficult, but you can go with any two, but not all those three. So now the plasma chain is a little bit centralized. And the security plasma exit, I explained. And you guys know about the 51% attack, right? So there are validators. So if these validators can have 51%, combination of 51 through child chains, this 51% can attack is possible, very possible, right? So, okay, right. So plasma-based DApps. What are the plasma-based practical application? The most famous one is Plasma Dog. Something like CryptoKitties, but this is actually a game, right? I'll show you a preview of that game quickly. So this game is like a retro style game, but this backend is purely on Ethereum Plasma. To be precise, this is purely based on Ethereum Plasma Mo VP. So what wants to do in this game is, yeah, like you have a dog. Dog is a police guy, so it's like an officer. So you can go and check who didn't do what. Like if there is a fraud things, he can go and catch. If there is an incomplete transaction, you can go and check. And you can, if you found something, they will reward you, right? So this is the Plasma Dog game. The other one is what we are doing in my company in Electrify. So Electrify, I'm working for a electricity company in Singapore to give a very small explanation about what I'm doing now. So what we are doing is we are storing all the electricity consumption in blockchain, and from the green producers like the solar panels and the wind turbines, we are trying to maximize your electricity usage by using the green electricity and minimize the electricity, the money you are paying for the electricity. So this is what we are doing in Electrify in a very broad manner. I cannot give more gradually details because of the NDA I have signed with the company. So, but you guys can have, there are several articles what we are doing in our company in the Electrify, and you guys can have a look, right? So if any questions about this one or anything, you guys can ask in the 45-minute session in the QA. So further readings, I would like, if you guys are interested about Plasma, first go to this one, this link, the Ethereum Sharding FAQ link. It has all the information what they are, but it is really difficult to do the scaling. The second link is the Learn Plasma ORG. It's doing by the community. And the third one is ETH research. So if you are willing to stay on game with Ethereum or the blockchain, the public blockchain, the one site you have to check early in the morning is Ethereum research, right? So called ETH research. And the second one is Plasma.io. So all this information I have speak, though most of the information are there. All other stuff you guys can Google, right? So that's the end of the presentation. Thanks for listening. So any questions you guys can ask later. Right, thank you.